Okay, so this is part 2 of the bench build. We finished up last video with the leg assembly. This is the one of the trestles for the end. It's already mortised for the long rails, and I had actually narrated this video, but the fan in the background is pretty obnoxious, so I figured I would just narrate like this over it. This is Everything's pretty tight. You can see those dovetails are really tight. I hadn't waxed them yet, so and that again is 3-inch by 6-inch legs on left and right, and the bottom and top rails are 3 inches by 4 inches with a 2-inch dovetail, and roughly 5 degrees. So these are the other 2 legs, the other trestle runners, and the braces on the wood rack there, and you could see the shelf above them is filled with all of the top material, which I've already ripped. I haven't processed it, but I had already roughed it because I tried to keep the maple costs of the build as low as I could. So here's the one side of the 2 tops glued up, and they're about 4.5 inches right now. And again, I was narrating this on film, but it's just I have a fan in the background that's pretty obnoxious, and I couldn't delete it out. So anyway, so this is a 12-inch glue up, and I have the maple, 8/4 maple, jointed and flattened on one edge. So the bottom is actually flat, which means I can clean it up and put it on the jointer, or the planer, without too much extra work. I wanted to limit my flattening as much as possible, because this was it was a lot of work already, so any work I could cut out of the equation, I was glad to do so. And I have a planer which I've reviewed in one of my other videos, and that planer is a beast with the Shellix cutter I have on it, and I actually planed this top down, which you'll see here in just a minute. So just a tip here too, when you clamp a top like this, or any glue up for that matter, it's important that you rotate your clamps. Now I use those K-bodies that you saw, so they're a parallel clamp. They don't really bend as long as you have them tight to what you're clamping, but you want to rotate your clamps so that you have a equal squeeze on the top and bottom, because you always get unproportional squeeze, and that's why if the clamps are rotated. So for those of you that might not be familiar with it, I just wanted to explain that. So anyway, so here my wife is helping me join these through, and again, this is a 12-inch 12-inch wide hard maple bench top, 4 inches thick, and I'm using the slow setting, and I'm not taking big passes off, but it does a really nice job. I actually had no trouble getting it through this thing. It was just, as you can imagine, that top weighs a ton, so I had to have help running it through. So yeah, between the 2 tops, there's going to be quite a while of planing, so I cut most of it out, but it was pretty exciting. So you can see the kids kept visiting. This is what happens when Mom isn't in the house. So instead of trying to join it square by hand, I just had my wife help me run it through the joiner. So I got a nice 90-degree jointed edge pretty quick. But definitely had to have some help holding one end, because it's obviously, even if I had this is just a little 6-inch rigid joiner, but even a big long bed joiner, the weight would just be too much to hold it down. So
What are you doing?
Mommy.
Buddy.
Daddy.
Daddy's knife. You broke it. You broke it.
Cut.
Cut. Good job. Cut with that knife.
Alright, well, we're done with the plane.
Yep, cut with that knife. Yep. No, I don't think you should climb. You're gonna climb anyways. No, you can't have that knife. You broke it. You broke it. Oh. Yeah, you broke the knife. What? Yep, use that knife. Yeah, use that one. Yep. Yep, saw Daddy's bench. Yep, that bench we just put all that work into. Go ahead, saw it now.
Down here with the real stuff.
Are you cutting it? You're gonna cut it right in half?
Okay, so here's where I'm adding the finishing wax. Now, it's obviously if this was a glued unit, a glued project, you wouldn't ever put wax. But because it's a mechanical joint that is designed to be taken apart, the wax just removes most of the friction of the dovetails, so that you don't, you don't have to really force them in there. They glide pretty easily. So I can just use a clamp and pull them together, pull the bench pieces together without putting a ton of stress on the wood. So when you get a dovetail this size without the paste wax in there, if you're trying to keep the dovetails tight, which is the goal, just the friction of that dovetail, two of those dovetails that size, even with them fitting exactly, it's still it's a joint you have to force. So this makes the forcing of the joint really minimal, so I was able to put them together pretty easy. So I've done the tops of the legs as well, and I applied wax to everything, to all of the dovetailed connections. So that would be all the pins, and all the mortises in the top, and the opposing joints, etc. So anything that was going to join got wax. So here I'm, this is the first time I've glued the top together, or clamped the top together. So I've got everything waxed now, and I am dry fitting the first fit, just to make any adjustments and to begin fitting the dovetails that will anchor the top down on the inner side.
So to give you an idea of how strong these dovetails are, that 200-pound piece of maple is being completely supported.
So anchoring down the tops on both ends, the outsides are of course dovetailed into the legs. The legs are dovetailed into the sides of the top, but on the inner edges, I needed something to bolt that down with to my rail. So what I did is I made maple dovetail keys, and you can see the larger over mortise there is the width of the thickest part of the dovetail key, so I can set that in this mortise and then tap it down, and that allows me to punch it out. If I want to take the bench apart, I can punch it out into the over mortise and then pull it out, which will release the top from that rail. So this is the how I mortised it. So I I gouged out my large rectangular mortise first, and then I set my dovetail in there, used a long tipped pencil to mark my pin to the sidewall of the mortise, and that gives me my profile, and then it's just a matter of whittling it down to that size. So this is what I was just talking about. So you can see I get that fit in there nice and snug. No wax on these. I want them to be tight. They're not going to jeopardize the grain like they will on the legs. So. And then just one more quick look at the connection. So you can see there's zero play in that. So when I mortise that into the bench, it's gonna lock it. It's gonna lock that top down, and not that it really needs to be locked down. If you think about it, the weight of the top alone is all it needs. But so that's it for video 2, and it's a little bit longer than the first one, but I think there was a little bit more to cover. So this is the I figured I'd end it. I was working on the tail vise, the bench dog reliefs for the tail vise. So just routing those out, hogging out most of the meat with the router, and bushing. I've already cut them at a taper with the table saw. So anyway, I'll try to get part 3 done, and that'll be. I actually do have footage of the leg vise. So part 3, I'll actually be doing the leg vise mortising for the. I didn't get the leg itself, but it's same exact process as the mortise in the chop itself. So I have the chop mortise footage and how I went about that. So that'll be next. So it'll be the vise hardware, installing it, and then the finished bench. So. Anyway, thanks for watching, and please do give a thumbs up if you liked it, and look for the next one.